Nancy Pelosi is at it again. A new report filed with the clerk of the House of Representatives shows she just made a seven-figure trade on Broadcom, ticker symbol AVGO. As Speaker of the House and one of the most senior members of Congress, Pelosi is privy to all sorts of private information. And she has a long history of using this information to make well-timed investments in the stock market. For example, in March 2021, she invested more than $5 million into Microsoft, just 2 weeks before the government announced a $22 billion contract with the company for augmented reality headsets. She also bought more than $1 million of Tesla stock, just weeks before Biden signed an executive order mandating the entire federal fleet transition to electric vehicles. In 2022, Pelosi played a key role in passing the CHIPS Act, which gave $52 billion in subsidies to U.S. semiconductor manufacturers like Nvidia. But old Nancy put $5 million into call options on Nvidia stock, making her millions when that bill was passed. Regular investors have been following her trades for years. In fact, there's a Nancy Pelosi strategy which over the last 10 years has returned more than triple what the stock market has. And one of the reasons she makes so much money in the market is, yes, of course, she's using inside information, but she's also so confident in that information that she will often use stock options to get a leveraged bet. In other words, with an option, if the stock goes up 50%, the option may go up 100 or 200%, and that's what she's doing right now. By most estimates, Nancy Pelosi has made between $200 and $300 million with these very well-timed stock trades over the last 15 years. And there's two reasons she's so good. Number one, obviously, she's in a position to see private information before the public. Just like those examples I gave you earlier, there are dozens more. In fact, earlier this year, she bought call options on a stock called Tempus AI. That stock quickly doubled in less than 30 days. But what I'm sure is a pure coincidence. A top executive at that company just so happened to be very well connected to Pelosi, and they've worked together on legislation for more than a decade. But there's another reason Pelosi has performed so well. And that is that she does not just buy the stock, but she will often buy stock options. Now, options, if you're not familiar, are essentially a leveraged bet on a stock. So an option is something that says, okay, I have the right to buy this stock at this price anytime between now and some date in the future. Hers are usually a year out. And so the right to do that may only be worth $4, $5, $10 per share. But if the stock makes a big move, that $5 or $10 per share can turn into $30 or $40 or $50 per share. So if the stock doubles, you can often make 2, 3, 4 times your money with that option. And it's a very risky strategy because options are essentially all or nothing bets. If that stock does not make a substantial move within the time before that option expires, you will lose all the money you put into those options. So it is only a trade you would make if you had an extremely high conviction that good news was coming and that stock was going to, in fact, make a big move higher. So when you see someone putting millions of dollars into one of these high-risk, all-or-nothing single stock bets, it's usually safe to say that the odds are very good it's going to come to fruition. She's got a history of doing this. In fact, if we look at her trades just from January, this one here in Alphabet, which is Google, you can see she put between $250,000 and $500,000 in, but instead of buying the stock, she bought call options with a strike price of $150 that don't expire until January of 2026. Same thing with Amazon, call options expiring Jan 2026. This is one she did on Tempus AI. Now, she only put $100,000 in these call options, but the stock doubled in 30 days. If she exited those a month later, she would have turned that $100,000 into $600,000 or $700,000. But this is what she's doing today. So here's the new periodic transaction report, filed, of course, with the House of Representatives, and you can see her trade. This is just a little mutual fund, $15,000 to $50,000. She's very wealthy. We're not concerned about the small trades, but this is the one on Broadcom, between $1 and $5 million. And what she is doing is exercising options she bought in June of last year. And so when we go to the chart, you can see it. Here was her trade from June of 2024. She bought call options that gave her the right to buy stock at 80 and 10 for the next year. And shocker, it's worked out very well. Broadcom stock is up 76% since she bought these. But instead of just cashing out in what is probably about a $4 or $5 million win, she is pressing further and exercising those options. Instead of taking the profits from the big option trade, she is instead buying up that stock. And until we see her sell any, it is a good bet that she believes Broadcom is going to continue to outperform and go higher. Why is this? What information does she know? Well, I don't know. I'm not a member of Congress. I don't have access to the same information she does. I don't have a Rolodex that reads like the who's who of global power, but Nancy Pelosi does. And so when she's betting heavily, especially using leverage, on a publicly traded stock, it can be very profitable to follow her lead. Now, if you like this video, be sure to click the subscribe button down there in the corner. We've been doing this for about 8 years now, tracking insider activity, both from politicians like Pelosi, but also corporate insiders, CEOs, CFOs, other top executives who have access to inside private information about their own company. And when in possession of that information, if they are making large 6- and 7-figure bets on their own stock with their own money at the companies they themselves run, they are often waving a giant green flag, letting you know that something good is about to come down the pike, something that could send that stock much, much higher. So click the subscribe button, and I'll be sure to share these updates as they come out.